What's up, everyone? All right, well, second red day recap in a row. Back-to-back red day recaps. You guys know this is how it often goes. I'll have green days all kind of stacked together, and then the red days are stacked together, kind of like a stock chart. You know, green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, red, red. You know, that's just sort of how it always is. It's the ebb and the flow of the market. My loss today, though, is kind of self-inflicted. And we'll talk about it as we break down the recap, but it started with the first trade right out of the gates just whipping down, and as I dipped below my $1,000 max loss, I thought to myself, gosh, I don't want to get knocked out in the first minute of the day. So rather than bail out where my instinct was to bail out, I pressed the override button on that instinct because I said to myself, well, if I hit it now, I'm down like $1,200. And then I'm $200 past my max loss. So let me just give this a second and see if it pops back up. Override the instinct to sell. What happens? It flushes down. End up losing $3,000. So, you know, I ended up getting knocked out there, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna increase my max loss to $5,000, which is a more reasonable level for the share size that I trade. I increased the max loss to $5,000, but by the time it's been updated on the account, I ended up missing the bulk of this really big move on ARMP, which I traded in my TD Ameritrade small account challenge, which was great, but I missed it in the big account. So I ended up buying the first pullback, making a little bit of money, and you know, whatever, but it didn't end, and then I kind of, you know, was in this mindset digging myself out of the hole, and that last trade just wiped me out, gave back all the gains, and then went red on the stock. So down almost 6,000 today. And you know what my gut instinct is to do right now? And I'm fighting it. My gut instinct is to go to login to Lightspeed and see where I sit on the month. Because now I'm like, oh man, I had a great green day last week. I had $20,000 of profit on Thursday, another $1,700 on Friday, but now 2 red days in a row, I probably gave back $9,000 between these 2 days. So my instinct is to go check and see, where do I sit on the account on the month? And the question that I'm trying to ask myself before I give into that instinct is, why do you want to know that? And what is knowing that information going to do for you? I feel like I want to know that because I want to know how green I am on the month, because I imagine it's only by a little, or how red I am on the month, which I think it's more likely that I'm red on the month after today. So if I log in, I'll see that number. That number will stick in my head. Let's say it's $5,000, 5,000. And now I'm gonna have it in my mind that I need to make $5,000 between Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's gonna be impossible to take that number out of my head. And then, just like today, I was trading that $1,000 level, I'll be trading this $5,000 level. So knowing that information right now doesn't actually serve me. It doesn't help me. It's gonna get me even more off my center and off my balance and focusing on something other than the market. What I need to focus on is the market right in front of me and not be distracted by, you know, where I sit month to date, where I sit on the day relative to my max loss. My max loss was too tight for the positions I'm trading, and that was my own mistake. It cost me here, and so now I'm gonna have a little bit more slack on the max loss, so this won't be something that's in my head in the first 2 minutes of trading when I need to be at peak focus. But I think that as a beginner trader, it feels like every day I was checking that P&L. Where do I sit on the day? Well, of course, but where do I sit really on the month? Have I hit my monthly goal? Where do I sit on my, on the year, or my entire career, my endeavor of trying to learn how to day trade? And when you're constantly looking at that number and seeing it going red and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, then the emotional impact of that just gets higher and higher. You start to get emotionally fueled, and you get more and more frustrated, and you start making emotionally impulsive decisions, which only further, extends the losses, generally speaking. At the same time, it's not like you can be totally, blank to how much you've made or lost, because you need to know. So how do you know, but also keep that kind of separate from your trading? I would say perhaps that the days to look at it are on green days or after a couple of green days, because then even if you're like, well, I'm red on the month, at least you have that feeling of, I'm moving in the right direction. You have a little optimism, and you kind of are able to temper it against the, yeah, it's disappointing I'm not where I want to be, but at least I had a good day today, and as long as I keep doing the right thing, I'll be okay. If you look at it when you're on a red day, because you're already sort of emotionally heightened, then I feel like it just kind of makes it worse. And you want to, after a red day like today, you want to try to bring yourself back up to center by tomorrow. So anything you do that draws you further into the emotional, there's a good chance it'll carry over to the next day. So check that P&L. Check to see where you're at on the week, on the month, on the year, but don't dwell on it. Maybe just look at it on days when you're green, where, if you are red overall, it sort of softens the blow. And the reality is, being a consistent trader, it's about averages over long periods of time. So, over the period of the last 30 days, I've had some big swings, but, big picture stuff. Try not to get too bent out of shape about, the minuscule. So anyways, I give that to myself as advice that I need to hear, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys as well. Enjoy the recap today. As always, questions, comments, leave them below, and I'll see you guys first thing tomorrow morning. All right, everyone, so we're going to do a recap here. Second red day in a row. I was red yesterday, red again today. I never like to have back-to-back red days, and it means I've got to be really careful tomorrow to make sure that I just have a green day. And it certainly feels frustrating because, in 2 days I've given back, half of the profit I made on that really big, awesome $20,000 green day. And, I'm down 6,000 here. I was down 2,900 yesterday, so almost 10 grand between 2 days, 9,000, whatever, close enough. It's disappointing, and it's a little sloppy. So let's kind of break down the trades from today. Or historical time frame 9:20 a.m. So this is what our gap scan looked like this morning. These are the two stocks I traded. All right, so both of the stocks straight off the gap scan. OBCI, we'll look at that one first because that was the first trade I took. OBCI, the pre-market chart, not perfect. Not perfect. Big green volume and then sell-off. All right, so I was a little skeptical of it. However, you can dial this in here on a 10-second chart. You can see that in the first candle, it pops up here to 544. It drops down, and as it surges back up, I got in right here because I was like, you know what? This thing looks like it's going to break over 550. It's looking strong. First 1 minute candle, big green candle, it's moving up. So at that moment, I was thinking that, obviously it wasn't great that it sold off, but volume is coming in. It's big green candle, big green volume bar. Break a 550, next stop, 575, $6. And then over 6, we've got a good chance of getting back to high a day. So I got in right there. And I bought 6,000, I believe it was 6,000 shares. Yeah, 6,000 shares. And as it dips right here, so it taps a high of 40, and that's basically where I got in. I was getting in at like 30, 35, 40. I was getting in right for the break over the $0.50 to anticipate it. So I was in like right around here. It pops up for a second. I don't take profit. It drops down to 520. I give it a second. Here it drops down to 511. And I was like, all right, well, this is not great. And at that moment, and this is the thing that just always, it really messes with me. So in that moment, I was like, well, if I cut the loss here, I'm down more than $1,000. I'm not going to be able to keep trading. I'm going to lock up my account within the first minute of the day. So I said to myself, well, I don't want to lock up my account in the first minute of the day. So I'll hold it. And let's see if it bounces up. Now, that's now trading based on my P&L, based on this risk level that I have set up with my broker. right? So it's like the right thing to do was just to cut the loss. Just to cut the loss real quick, bail out at 511 and take the $1,200 loss. It's a $1,200 loss, doesn't matter. It's no big deal. But instead, I was like, oh, well, I don't want to hit my max loss, so I'll hold it. Let's see if it pops back up. And it's certainly true that, you know, sometimes getting chopped out really early on, they do end up ripping, but it's not the right trade to hold through that pullback. And so when it flushes down here, you know, I end up stopping out. And I lost $3,000. So now I'm down well below my max loss. I'm down 3,000. It's still only the first minute of the day. So at that point, you know, I emailed Rob, my broker over at Lightspeed. I said, increase my max loss to $5,000. So I increased my max loss. All right. Well, I sent that email. While that email is in, I'm waiting for the account to get updated. I go over to TD Ameritrade, and I, you know, small account challenge. I take this trade in TD Ameritrade on ARMP. ARMP was on the watch list for the break over 420. Now, of course, I couldn't take that trade because this account, my big account, was locked up. I was below $1,000. So I couldn't take this in my main account. I bought this pullback right here in my TD account, and, you know, ended up making 50 cents a share almost on 600 shares. So that's nice, I guess. I mean, you know, that's good, but it doesn't help me in my big account. In my big account, I didn't get an entry until actually it was my first entry in the big account was right around here for the break over 650. So I got in, I think, around 620, sold on this move up to 660. I was up $1,000. So I was like, all right, nice, good work, good work. Took this trade right here in the big account, made another $1,000. So now I was actually only down 500 on the day. Down only 500 on the day. That's not too bad. OBCI comes up. It looks like it's going to break through VWAP. I jumped in right here for the breakthrough VWAP. Lost another $300. It failed that breakout. Thank goodness I stopped out on that one because it dropped all the way to 440. All right, so cut my loss there quickly, which was the right thing to do. ARMP, it starts to squeeze back up. And right in here, look at this. It squeezes up to a high of 89 and then drops all the way down to a low of 6 and then down to 580. I took what I thought would be a starter position right here and then lost almost $1 a share on it. Gave back all the profit I'd made. You look at the 1 minute chart. I mean, that's a tough breakout. You look at this 5 minute. It's the first 5 minute candle to make a new high. I didn't buy at 550 or 650. I waited. I then got in, like, almost literally just punched it impulsively near the high to just try to ride that momentum over 7. And ended up being a good size loss. So, in fact, today, you know, I would have been better off. It's like, it's hard to know where I would be in hindsight if I didn't have these max losses even on my account. Would I have just bailed out of OBCI really quick and only had a small loss on that first trade? Probably, because that's what my instinct was, and the only reason I didn't was because of the max loss being so tight. Would I then have been able to jump into ARMP early in the move? Presumably, yes. So I don't really know what to think. It's, you know, yesterday I had the max loss set up on my account, and when I hit my max loss, I told myself, I was like, you know what, I'm really glad that you're walking away here and not emailing Rob and saying, hey, can you increase my max loss to $5,000? Now, yesterday was a little bit different. Every day, of course, is different. But yesterday, after I hit that max loss, I was feeling really frustrated. And when I saw NNBC pop up, my instinct was just to punch the order. Now, and that ended up being, as it came right up to 16, it faded off that level and came all the way back down. So I know that if I had kept trading, I would have lost more money. And so I was saying to myself, I'm glad that I followed the rules. And then I said, you didn't really follow the rules. You got locked out of your account and then you couldn't keep trading. And then I said, okay, well, then I'm glad that I set up a restriction on my account that would prevent me from doing something impulsive during a time where I knew the likelihood of me doing that was really high. I think my trades today on OBCI, I jumped in it out of the gates. It was a decent looking setup and it just didn't work. And then I held it and lost an extra $2,000 more than I needed to because of trying to, not get knocked out of the day within the first 2 minutes. And you could say that, and this is a question that I asked myself when I had this max loss on the account. The max loss carried over from a few months ago when I set it. And I had asked myself if $1,000 was too tight of a max loss for the share size that I trade. Because with 6,000, 8,000, or 10,000 shares, you're basically talking about one 10-cent stop and then you're done for the day. Which, if you're going to trade with 10,000 shares, $1,000 of risk, you got to expect that you're going to be down $3,000. Now, $5,000 is a little, probably too loose, but maybe there's somewhere in the middle that's a little bit better. Maybe, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000. It's at $5,000 now. I'll leave it there going into tomorrow. The point of a max loss is to basically prevent having total blow up days. It's like having that insurance policy that sometimes you get, or that I used to have when I didn't have a lot of money, which is like just the catastrophic. I only want it for like catastrophic. I don't need it for, a little fender bender. I don't need it for, I'm not going to use it for anything like that. I'm only going to need it if something crazy happens. And so I think that for me is the main purpose of a max loss, just to have a line in the sand where if I start to get really, really aggressive and I start to snowball, that boom, it cuts me off. $5,000 is certainly a good cutoff spot. Today, right now, I shouldn't keep trading because now I am frustrated. So this is a good spot for it to be at today. At $3,000, I was mostly frustrated because of, oh man, well now I can't trade, and I think there's probably still going to be great opportunities. So yeah, kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a tough thing to deal with. Like literally, if you set your max loss at minus $100 and you take one trade and you're down 200, are you going to sell it, or are you going to say, well, let me hold it for a second because I don't want to stop trading at 9:31, right? You would hold it for a second. It's what you would do. So anyways, I'm just thinking out loud a little bit. I knew that this max loss of 1,000 was probably going to be a little too tight, and today is a perfect example of where it really threw me off my center. That's what it did. It threw me off my center. Because instead of focusing on the market, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this trade doesn't look good, but if I hit my stop, I'm done for the day. So I'll just hold it for a second and hope that maybe miraculously this is the one that bounces right back up. Now that's not my strategy typically, but when you're trading around something else, sometimes you'll rely on hope. And so that's what I did on that trade. Didn't work. ARMP, that last loss, I think at that point, yeah, I was probably just trying to get myself back to green and being a little too aggressive. So, and sure, I could reduce my share size, but I'm not super inclined to do that because that means I would just make less money on the green days. So I think it's just giving myself a little bit more slack on the max loss, and that way, if I go red on my first trade out of the gates, going down $3,000 is not a big deal. I've had so many days where I've gone down $3,000 and then I finished the day green. So I just have the max loss set too tight. And it threw me off my balance a little bit today. So that's all right. live to trade another day. This isn't by any means, catastrophic. It's just a disappointing kind of series of things that led to this. So good takeaways, good lessons learned, and silver lining. At least I'm green in the small account with TD Ameritrade, $282. So that's the silver lining for today. If I was red in both of them, I would feel worse. So take that silver lining and get the heck out of here. See you guys tomorrow. Hey, did you know every morning I go live to stream my pre-market watch list? Subscribe to the channel, press the alert button, and you'll get the notifications. And if you want to learn more about trading, check out the links in the description. And if you have questions, post them in the comments because I personally respond to every comment posted on my channel.